Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast. We're the movie podcast that likes to make every Monday a fun day because we like to get together and chat movies, but we do it with a purpose because we are the podcast that is trying to find one movie to define each state in these United States. Now, we've already finished season 1. We're just beginning our journey again here in season 2. And this week, we're stopping in, well, currently, my home state, the state of Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. So this week, we decided to make the cast a little bit bigger as well. Let's welcome back our regular co-host first, Ryan Sandler. Buddy, looking, as always, fantastic. Welcome back to the show.
It's so great to be here. And honestly, you forget how massive Texas is when you look through the list of films to go through. It's wild.
There is no shortage of movies when it comes to Texas. It's another one of those states that just seems to have the infinite bench of movies to watch. So we're definitely going to be returning here a fair few times. Speaking of someone surrounded by an infinite selection of movies, Will Hirsch, as always, sitting in your very own movie rental place right in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Yes.
Happy to be talking about these movies. And,
he's gonna do the whole episode like this.
Living in Texas now. Get to bring back my Rooster Cogburn voice.
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Jeff Bridges, he's just in full Rooster.
Same exact character. There's no difference, and I love it.
And no argument with me as well. But we do have as well another special guest, resident of Texas, friend of mine, also involved in the Waco Independent Film Festival, Samuel Thomas. Samuel, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Kind of a newbie on the show, looking to hopefully catch up with the conversation and hold my own.
Oh no, trust. The thing is, when Samuel and I met and we started chatting chatting in this bar called Stay Classy, and it's just one of those conversations, much like it was with Will, much like it was with Ryan, that suddenly it's an hour or two later and we're still talking movies. Don't worry, you're very, very much qualified as well. So the state, like I said, we're setting to this week is the state of Texas. I'm currently in Texas. So Samuel is Texan as well. And we are trying to dethrone the champion that honestly was a little bit of a surprise win for us last year, Friday Night Lights. It's a great movie, Peter Berg movie. It evoked so much about Texas that we were actually quite impressed with it. And at the end, we had to crown it champion. But this time around, we decided to sort of like bring some other movies. Honestly, the movie I immediately said that I wanted to bring is the movie I wanted to do in the first season but didn't, because while it is extraordinarily Texas, it is shot in New Mexico.
Yeah.
But because we have figured that one out, after we did our North Carolina episode, I said we are doing Hell or High Water.
I had completely forgotten about that until after I watched the film, I, of course, go on IMDb and just kind of look at some details. I was like shocked to find that out, that it was shot all in New Mexico. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apart from apparently the very, very first two bank heists right at the beginning of the movie, apparently one of those was the same town where they shot the Last Picture Show. And things like that. So the very, very tiny amount was shot in Texas. But yes.
Supposedly. I don't think it was actually shot there. My wife's family is from there, and she was getting mad.
Why so? Tell us.
Well, she's like, that is not Archer City. That is not, it was like everything. She's like, that was not my hometown. I think they even had wherever the store was. She's like, that store was never there. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's always like, it's this, honestly, it's like anytime you're watching a movie where it's set where you live and you go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. They just went 2 miles in 3 seconds. That's ridiculous. But this movie, David Mackenzie, directed by a Scottish director, it's one of those sort of that neo-Western trilogy, the American Frontier trilogy, Taylor Sheridan put out.
Taylor Sheridan trilogy.
We did do Wind River last season.
Yeah.
So we did miss our opportunity to do Sicario because we were just in Arizona. But this movie is a movie that I remember just sort of hearing the rumors about. I'd become such a fan of Taylor Sheridan, instantly, that as soon as I heard this movie was coming, I could not wait to watch it. And it is so good.
And this is the third one, right? Like
I think
this came
was
out
the
after
The second one.
second
Okay.
because he
See-
directed Wind River.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know if you guys were the same, but this was the third one I had seen prior to like it was Sicario and then Wind River, and then I'd seen this one much later.
Yeah, I did. I think I did them in order because I was just by that because I knew him because he was just the sheriff on Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
And then he kind of like got it's quite a story actually, like because he said, you know, he was always going to be 12th on the call sheet, you know, and so he decided I'm done with the acting. He quit and started writing scripts, and then he started winning the Blacklist, and now he's Taylor Sheridan creating everything on Paramount Plus right now.
Side note, Wind River is the best movie of 2016, just hands down.
Yeah.
It's a stunning movie.
It's a phenomenal film that I despise rewatching because of how it makes me, how shitty it makes me feel.
Right.
And this movie too, like we'll get into it, but like I forgot, like, oh my God, they're setting all of these things up just for you to be absolutely heartbroken by the end of it.
Yeah. But what surprises me about this movie, and it's kind of missing in his other work, is this one's funny. It's like kind of absent in the rest of his material, but like this is also, I remember seeing, because I saw this in theaters, I remember being surprised at like, wow, this isn't just like a dark grim, because I love Sicario, but it gets
it's
dark.
bleak. Yeah.
And then this had like a lot of lighter, like especially the waitress and stuff and scenes like that. I'm like, oh, this is like a movie.
Yeah.
Like this isn't,
and,
you know.
And you get that, like, Ben Foster is fantastic in this, and you get the dynamic with
always
the brothers. It's the brother banter is
the
so
dynamic
funny.
of them. They feel like more so than like Luke and Owen Wilson in the other movie. Like they feel more like brothers. I know they're not brothers in that film, but it's so believable that they are brothers. My only problem with this is Chris Pine is way too handsome for this movie. It's just takes me out of it. I'm like,
he is stunningly handsome.
He hadn't grown the beard full yet.
Yeah, it's even still like he's just too handsome. He's like you look at him and like that's a fucking movie star, you know?
It's outrageous. Even when they've got him all dirtied up and, you know, and it looks like he
Much
maybe
like
hasn't showered.
When we did,
still,
when we watched Mud, like Matthew McConaughey, they try and go out of their way to make him look homely. I'm like, doesn't work.
Doesn't this look like a dirty drifter? Like, no.
Yeah. I've seen dirty. I look like a dirty drifter. Like that's not how you do it.
Oh, good. You've been getting my text then.
Yes.
You know, it's I can't wait to get into that movie. I've owned it, you know, honestly since the year it came out. I watch it all the time. I think it's very much like, you know, it feels real. The characters feel real, but they also, even though, like I say, it's shot in New Mexico, the Texas of it feels very Texas. You know, like you said, that waitress. We're going to talk about that waitress because she's the best character in the entire movie. But it's also the interplay between Jeff Bridges and his partner. Is just you're laughing the whole way through, and it's like I'll get to the Indian jokes when I'm done with the Mexican jokes. And
she plays the waitress. She plays April in Eastbound and Down. So like me seeing her in this, I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking April.
Oh no way! I would have put money that she just worked in that restaurant. Yeah, that's how real she felt.
She's got that like whole Jennifer Tilly voice going on, like very mousy, but she's great.
Yeah.
Well, so Ryan, you mentioned the Wilson brothers, who feature very much in the other movie that I believe one of you guys brought to the table. Why don't you introduce that movie for us?
I don't think I picked this one, but I know I'd never seen it. I will if you.
I might have picked it because I love Wes Anderson, and I think someone threw out Bottle Rocket, and I'm like, oh, we should do that because I do like Bottle Rocket quite a lot. So
there you go, Bottle Rocket.
Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, I was telling Mrs. about that movie, and she's like, I've never really heard of this movie. And I go, I'm not surprised you haven't. You know, it is Wes Anderson's first. It was adapted from the short film that he made with the Wilsons. Owen Wilson wrote it along with Wes Anderson. And when it came out, it did not do well. It got released in like, I don't know, was it like 47
something like that. I don't think people were ready for this type of filmmaking. Like
it got the worst test screening report of any movie in Columbia Pictures history.
But I did see this is not only Luke and Owen Wilson's first film, but this movie is the first time where Owen Wilson says, "Wow."
Wow.
Yeah. Cinema history right there.
Well, actually, it's not just Owen and Luke. It's also one of their other
Third
brother is in
Wilson.
it as well. And I was like, I was watching the movie, and it's
Larry
like,
Wilson?
Shemp Wilson is in this movie.
but it was like, I was like watching it, and the guy, it didn't really look like either of them, but he had the weird tooth thing that
They
Luke has, and he has the same cat, like he speaks the same as Owen. That I was like, is
Yeah.
this a brother? Google, Google, Google. Yes.
Which role did he
Yeah.
play? 'Cause I,
He was
He's
the
Future
bully.
Man.
Future Man.
oh,
Yeah, he's the one that's always beating up Bob. Yeah, he's just beating him up. He's beating the brother up.
None
all
of
the
the
time.
brothers actually look like each other. I mean, it's
No.
it is the
No.
crazy thing. But you're right. I mean, I have little things like this looks like that. Like you could put them all
And
together.
I'm
you
wondering
have
if
a
it's
full,
coincidence.
full Wilson.
I'm wondering if it's a coincidence that like Luke Wilson in this movie looks like Wes Anderson also. Like it's
Yeah,
weird trippy. I'm like,
and it is so. Yeah, this was
Kind
like for any of the movies I've ever done for this show, I took the least amount of notes for Bottle Rocket. I mean, I've barely done 1.5. When we did like just one of the guys, that was 6 pages of notes, and this
because
is
it's
like,
so good. I know. It's a lot. Like, there's a lot to unpack with that very handcrafted story.
But well, the thing is, I would say that this is a very handcrafted story as well. I mean, the thing is, there's no specific sort of narrative structure. There's no act 1, act 2, act 3. There is just 90 minutes of conversation and craziness.
Yeah, I didn't care for this movie that much. Like I enjoyed it. I appreciated it because you really do see the genesis of him as a filmmaker. But I kind of checked out throughout watching this
Yeah.
movie a little bit.
This is he hadn't quite found his footing yet, and you can see him experimenting. It looks the least like a Wes Anderson movie.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So visually, he hadn't figured himself. There's a little bit of framing,
but it still
stuff,
looks good. Like
Yeah.
it's a very unique film, and really, I appreciate it. You could see the bones of like what he was trying to do. The only thing this film was missing is like Bill Murray in the James Caan role. Like,
Right.
Right.
But then James Caan is in
Yeah.
this movie. That's my first note, just James Caan, capital letters, question mark?
James Caan doing karate? Okay.
Is it just me though? Like every of the later James Caan films, they always just feel like he's kind of dropped in. Like I love Elf, but he works with that, but he feels like he's just the real character and they're the crazies, and he's just dropped in and he has to deal with it.
It's
I
James
like that.
Caan as
I li-
himself. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think it's kind of like coming off the back of, well, I did The Godfather and I've done Thief and I've done all these movies. It's like,
Yeah.
why don't I just like be random? And apparently like the karate thing is real.
Yeah.
Like he's really into karate.
It
He's
looked-
like, no, I
yeah.
should do karate.
Well, I think I could be totally wrong on this. Somebody will correct me online, I'm sure, but I think he did study with Bruce Lee. I think he was one of Bruce Lee's students.
oh, I honestly,
Well,
can
they're
see that.
definitely going to create you because Bruce Lee did Jeet Kune Do
oh,
and karate and
Oh.
Jeet Kune Do are very different.
Oh.
Sorry, you don't have to wait for the internet to correct you, Will. He's here. But I'm like, okay, now, Ryan, I am understanding the way you feel about this movie because I was watching it, like I said, but I didn't take any notes because I couldn't really take my eyes off it, and it's moving so quickly, and the guys are just like they're making such interesting choices, especially Owen Wilson. I wish I'd actually seen this earlier in my life so that I could
for
understand
sure.
that. Okay, there's a lot more to Owen Wilson. He's actually he's a kind of weird dude. He's quite out there because, like I said, he co-wrote this with Wes Anderson. They were kind of like, and a lot of people were saying is like, even James Caan, like they were saying is that James Caan was a bit confused because Wes Anderson and the way that he makes his movies and the way they just are on set is not how other people make movies. It's like,
interesting.
Everyone, this is what you do? Even like James L. Brooks, who's one of the producers, was like going, I was really worried when they were doing we had a meeting about rewrites and they didn't take a single note the entire time. They just sat there and I'm like, are they listening to me right now? But so the plot, that we like to do this by accident, Samuel, that we'll talk about the movie before explaining the plot to anybody that hasn't seen the movie. Though I would say, but this one is, I mean, how would you describe the plot? It's kind of, it starts in Arizona where Anthony, who is Luke Wilson, escapes from a voluntary psychiatric unit.
It's just filled with him and like attractive women.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
And then,
I'm booking myself to stay there next week.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I know. It looks quite relaxing. And then his buddy, Dignan, played by Owen Wilson, helps him sort of escape. And then for sort of, honestly, reasons that are honestly kind of strange and random. Owen Wilson really wants to get into do a heist, wants to get in with James Caan, who he seems as a thief, and that's essentially the movie.
It's a pretty funny overlap the two of these movies have, that they're two brothers are bank robbers, and you have two guys that are not brothers also robbing a bookstore and some other shit.
But the thing is, I wrote that they're so obviously brothers, even though they don't look the same. That like they're just in the car or they're in the bus talking to each other, and I'm like, that's the only Wes Anderson shot of the movie, to be honest, was the Notebook. You know, where he's looking down his drawings, 75-year plan, and we're going through his notebook. But apart from that, there are some great camera moves. And in fact, this is the same cinematographer that he would Wes Anderson goes on to work with forever, right? This is he shot all of his movies. So we've seen where he ends up, because I remember we were doing The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and like we were just talking about, oh my God, it looks amazing, and it's so cinematography, blah, 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 blah. But to go all the way back and strip it down to just 4 or 5 guys bouncing around Texas with a camera, that's when you get Bottle Rocket. But I'm kind of like you, Ryan. I wasn't sure whether I was enjoying it or not. I was more enjoying watching the movie.
Yeah, it's not so much a movie as it is like a bunch of vignettes that kind of fit together, you know? But I did enjoy it. Like you said, I do wish I would have seen this as his first film and then appreciate his career as it, went on. Yeah. But watching this now after seeing many of his films, and I like some of his films, but I'm not like the biggest diehard Wes Anderson fan. Yeah. But seeing this, you're like, wow, okay, that's where he kind of gets the idea for this, or this is how he moves the camera this way. It was really like a technical level cool to see his, like the way his mind was kind of working.
But also just like the script. Owen Wilson constantly is like, the stuff coming out of his mouth is actually really funny and so random as well. Like, Samuel, what do you think about Bottle Rocket? Is this like, how do you feel about Wes Anderson, and how do you feel about Bottle Rocket?
Well, first of all, there was a script for that? Right. No, okay. So, yeah, I really kind of echo a lot of what you guys are saying. I do like a lot of Wes Anderson. They're always enjoyable stories. I wouldn't say I'm a full-on huge Wes Anderson nerd, but if it comes up, I'm going to go watch it. I get the style. That movie, I watched it once, and that was enough. That was good. Yeah. I was like, I've seen it. So I worked in a video store in the early 90s, late 80s. So I still was kind of connected to getting movies at that time. And that's the mid 90s when that came out. And that, honestly, it's such a product of its era. And it does show, like the beginnings of all of those guys. And where they came from. So it's kind of cool, like a time capsule type of thing. But as far as like longevity on its own, I agree with you guys. I don't think it rides the storm very well.
I think I wrote in our text thread, I was like, this is like the best student film I've ever seen. It just feels like very amateur, but in such an elevated way. Like it.
Well, it's kind of like, it's exactly like we're saying. I've got it. The note says it's so Wes Anderson and so not Wes Anderson. It's so intentional yet random. You know what I mean? It's like they've made very specific random choices, but they're sticking to those choices and they're just going for it. That I'm like, that's why I agree with Samuel 100%. Is that I'm not going to watch this movie again. But at the same time, I'm watching the movie just going, oh man, okay, they're just going for it. They are just making their movie.
Yeah, I will say, like, after I was thinking back to our last episode where we were talking about Raising Arizona, where it, you can see the genesis of a lot of that, though a lot of those characters for me didn't have like redeeming qualities. Like I wasn't really pulling for anyone. Whereas this, I'm like actually engaging and rooting for these characters.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like, Luke Wilson's character, but Dignan, I think, just steals the movie. So Owen Wilson's character, Dignan, is just, he's like the protagonist, the antagonist. He's the everything. He's the comedy relief.
Launched his career.
That shot where Luke Wilson is outside of the bar with the woman, and you can see in the background them playing pool where he gets fucking decked. Like, that's, again, like, there are glimpses of, it's like Wes Anderson's doing like a test run for something else. Like it's, a precursor to everything he's going to do.
Yeah. And
I couldn't think, I couldn't take, like, that's the old, like watching this movie, that's all I could think about. I'm like, oh, he's going to use that for this. Like I couldn't sit and just enjoy this movie for what it was, because I was thinking what he's going to do with it.
Yeah. And it's funny to see him at this point, because I do think it took him actually a couple movies before like he really hit on his thing. Like for me, Royal Tenenbaums is my favorite movie he made, and for me, I'm like, that's the one where, okay, he is now fully formed, and he is off to the races. Because Rushmore, I also like. I think that was his next movie. I liked it a lot more, but even there's still like he's figuring things out. He's not quite there yet. And I like this movie, but on the tier list of Wes Anderson movies,
it's less Anderson.
Yeah, it's definitely less Anderson. Yeah.
It's funny you should say the Royal Tenenbaums, because I was telling Mrs. I was watching Bottle Rocket, and I go, it's a Wes Anderson movie. She goes, oh man, I hate his movies. And I was like, she goes, I saw the Royal Tenenbaums, so boring. And I was like, okay, baby, all right. Because I like Moonrise Kingdom. I like the Grand Budapest. The Grand Budapest Hotel is brilliant.
Yeah,
probably his best one.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. I was happy to see Bottle Rocket because because during this podcast has helped me see some of these movies that honestly I'm like, I've never really got to. So yeah, I'm still discovering Wes Anderson. I've never seen the Royal Tenenbaums. You know what I mean?
What's the one where they're on the train? That's not Moonrise? Is that Moonrise?
That's Darjeeling.
No, that's
Darjeeling Limited.
Another one I have not seen.
Sorry, there is a train in Grand Budapest though.
Yes, but have you ever seen the behind the scenes of that?
Yes.
It's because they couldn't. Yeah, it's a great classic behind the scenes of like, we can't afford a train, so let's just they're just pushing it along. It's brilliant, and it fooled me. Can tell you that much. So yeah, all right. So this movie is. What I liked about it, though, from the Texas perspective, is it's showing a side of Texas that people don't see, whereas Hell or High Water is what people think Texas is, which is this dusty, dusty place. And trust me, there's lots of dusty places in Texas. But there's also where we live, where Samuel and I live, which is the green area and the hilly area. And so this was actually primarily shot in a place called
hilly area.
Yeah, well, we do. Yeah, it's slightly. This was shot in Hillsborough, which is about 35 minutes, 40 minutes north of Waco, where we are. Very famous now for having a new Buc-ee's. So Texas is very excited that Hillsborough's got the new I-35 Buc-ee's that we all stop at now, which is great.
Moving up in the world, that's awesome.
But
can I just say, sorry?
Yeah, go for it.
The Buc-ee's thing. So
there we go.
I am a Texan.
Careful.
What I like about Buc-ee's is it makes the rest of the area rise up, so I can go to the restroom at another spot instead of dealing with Buc-ee's because it's just as nice. That's what I like about Buc-ee's.
I've heard the Buc-ee's restrooms are like top tier.
Sure.
Oh, they are.
But you have to walk all the way through this big ass store and stand in line and whatever. And if I can get a clean restroom at not even half the time, like a third of the time, I'm gonna go there.
For me, I don't see what all the fuss is. I went to like a restroom at a Buc-ee's. There's not a single glory hole. I don't understand. It's like no stars.
Yeah. And the phone numbers, there's no phone numbers to call people.
I know, right?
Is it even a restroom? I mean,
there is art on the walls for sale in the Buc-ee's bathrooms.
In the bathrooms?
Oh, yes.
Right. Yeah.
You can buy the art on the walls. I'm not sure I would. Yeah. But no, Buc-ee's it has a special place in the heart of many Texans. Because
you should go and like pop up our Wraith in Time poster.
Oh,
just start littering.
As long as the art is mounted higher than.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's lower, I'm not buying any of that art.
Yeah.
So what I was saying in the movie, they're trying to sort of Dignan's trying to impress James Caan. He used to work as a landscaper, but he also believes that he's some sort of gangster, which he kind of is.
He thinks he's a thief, which is kind of a play on him being in Thief.
From Michael Mann's Thief. But I love the bit that when they do their first heist, it's a fucking bookstore. And I'm like, that's the bit that actually, that had me laughing.
Their first heist is robbing his parents' house.
That's right.
Right? His own house? I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I like that they're small-time thieves, I guess, but they're so inept.
Well, it's just so mid-90s as well, because like, what's a bookstore to any of the Gen Z people? It's Amazon in a building. But then, like, how much money is going to be there?
At a book, it's ridiculous.
And then the way they blag their way in, it's, I left my jacket, I left some money, and it's so stupid. It's just so stupid. Yeah. But the fact is that then, after such a low-key crime where they've stolen hundreds of dollars, they then go on the lam. Like they go on the lam like we're wanted men.
He has to steal a car. Like that's ridiculous.
And it's like, because it's something that you like to talk about all the time, Ryan. It's just the stakes couldn't be lower.
Yeah.
In this movie.
But that's what makes it so so enjoyable.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Because he's acting like the stakes are life and death. You know, but it's not. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one's looking for them. You're just off on this adventure. They end up in this motel, which apparently I hear that they do like they do a sort of showing of the movie in Hillsborough.
I think they were trying to like sell that hotel, but the film community came and convinced them to keep it, and now they do, I think, film festivals there on the anniversary of this movie.
Yeah, they show the movie or something like that. But it's like, and that's where they meet Inez, who is actually a very famous actress. She ended up like she'd done a bunch of movies. Lumi Cavazos, bunch of movies in Mexico, and then she also sort of came over and did some stuff in the States as well. But like as soon as she came on,
she was
I was
great.
like, wow, yeah, she was great. Like and just yeah. I mean, the thing is that the craft in this movie is actually quite high, even though at the same time that it's just too random. I think for the average movie-going audience, which was why I think it just did not.
This is what people try and make their movies look like now. It's nuts, you know. But watching it then, it feels so polished and yet so amateur at the same time.
Yeah, they just hadn't figured out like how to tell a story quite yet, like a full story. You know, they're almost there. They're just not quite there yet.
Yeah, I loved how this movie looked, but I was just like, what is this? What is the story?
I watched Inglourious Basterds last night because Mrs. hadn't seen it. I haven't seen it since it came out actually, and it's like. What I think that these guys are doing very well, which is what Tarantino does very well, is very sort of conversational. You know, people are actually, there's a lot of dialogue, and when people are talking, but the thing is, what Tarantino does is he splits his movies up. He's got his actual moments, and he's got his acts, or he's got his whatever it is. There's a structure to it that helps guide you through, which is why like you're propelled by his dialogue. Whereas this one, all the propulsion is dialogue, but there's no guardrails to it. We're just you know, it's like you were going down this slide and it's like there's no choice, this is where we're going. There's no like, oh, what are we going to do next? It's like, we're upon a rocket and it's going and they're talking and it's random and it's like, oh, is it over? It's over. Okay, credits.
Yeah.
It's just like that's how I see it. I mean, like, Will, you know, you are our resident writer. You definitely like have observations. What do you feel about it? How do you see it?
I definitely see it like it does feel so student film like. This does feel like a bunch of writers who are getting carried away with like the funny dialogue, and you kind of run into that, oops, we forgot how this all ties the story together. That being said, it is great funny dialogue. Like I was cracking up a lot of times because these guys are so bad at crime. And not just bad at the technicalities of crime, but bad at picking what crimes to do.
Yeah.
And
but are so prepared when it comes down to like meticulously
so much prep for it all to go just not just, you know, bad, but just like they just can't even complete any, you know, heist really. My favorite is the at the bookstore where they're robbing it and like, do you have any bigger bags? And
just put them all in smaller bags, and it's only like a couple $100. It's like,
I love the manager being like, "Don't yell at me."
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah. That was funny.
Don't call me
sorry.
That. My favorite line of the movie for it just being just so silly and ridiculous, but very reflective of kind of how the script goes is when that car had broken down, the Alfa Romeo Spider breaks down, and Owen Wilson goes and he throws like a rock or whatever at the car and he just screams, "Pointless act!" You know, just like, it's a pointless act. It's just like, yes, it is. But he says it out loud and I go, that's such a random thing to say. I love it, writing it down right now.
Yeah.
To Will's point, it's very much a student film feel to it. And honestly, I'd like to thank Wes Anderson and Quentin Tarantino for launching 1,000, and I'm being very sarcastic in case you couldn't tell, for launching 1,000 films that are all made by less qualified filmmakers who just want to have a freaking dialogue for 90 minutes. Good times, especially when they submit to the film festival.
I was about to say, because so Samuel, I said, with the Waco Independent Film Festival, part of his like job that can be soul destroying is sitting through all of the submissions, because you got to find those diamonds in the rough. But like, yeah, I've talked to Sam before. He's like, "Oh man, sometimes I just don't want to love movies anymore."
How many movies have you had to sit through where it's 2 or 3 guys sitting around just chatting about random stuff, like, you know?
And it's not, and they're not, whatever they're engaged in, I'm not engaged in. It's like, you're not pulling me in. I mean, and I will say, to be fair though, like, because we take probably 15-20% of everything that gets submitted. I'm dealing with 80% slog, but when it comes along and you hit that one in the queue and it's actually like really good, that's actually refreshing. And I don't know if it's just because it was so bad and now it's so good, or if it's just really really good on its own.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I had actually, Samuel, I saw you in a short film the other day.
Why, yes, you did.
Yeah, what was the name of that movie? Oh my God, I'm completely blanking on it. Help me out here.
Heart of
Hard
Texas,
Texas.
I think.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
it's a
Texas.
short film. It's made in Waco. And they're currently, I'm going to talk about it right now, but Heart of Texas, but we're trying to get in front of as many Academy voters as possible because
Totally.
it's got a potential to get to the Oscars.
Wow.
And it's really good. It's really good.
It
I
really
really
is.
enjoyed it, man. It was a great movie.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It was about 15 minutes long, but it's like the thing is that's kind of, and there was, in this case, it's a movie that it's not just dialogue. It's a lot of like emotion. It's a lot of like, so because there are the
Can I
good
talk
ones.
about it for a second?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So, the cool thing is, it's done by Gregory Kasnich and Lauren Knoll. The cool thing is, they actually met at our film festival a couple of years prior to this. We actually have a screenplay contest, and they entered it, and they won. And part of that prize package, they were, if they so choose, they could shoot a film in Waco, this is what they did. And the script was great. It was originally called The Audition. And then, of course, we had a name change for our film festival. It used to be called Deep in the Heart. Now we're Waco Indie. So they went ahead and took Heart of Texas after we had switched off, which was totally fine. And they just went for it. And they had amazing people from the Waco community help kind of fill in their crew. Asked me to act in it. So, I hope I did a good job. And it was fun. I had fun on set. They really, really knew what they were doing. And and then they start putting it out, and it started winning awards and going places. And we're just so happy. Like Waco Indie is just so happy to have a part in, helping to foster getting that done. And it's actually something we've continued to do. It's something still part of our prize package for our screenplay contest.
Wow.
Well, it worked. I tell you, you definitely picked a right one this one. I'm really hoping.
Yeah.
We might pick that for season 3.
Yeah, honestly, I hope they can make a feature
They
out
are.
of it.
Yeah.
They're actually, that's their next step, is to make a feature.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
the next step hopefully is Oscar, but even if they're on the Oscar long list, but if they get to the short list, and then of course the actual Oscar itself would be great. But yes, feature is what they're planning.
That's really
And
cool.
that's I mean, but that matches very much with what Bottle Rocket was too, is that they made their short film, they took it to Sundance, I believe, it got attention, they were able to get a producer on board, James L. Brooks, things like that. Now they've got financing, they've got $5 million, and then it just tanked. It did not work. People did not see it. Owen Wilson was seriously considering joining the Marines because he was like, well, there's no point. How is anyone with my nose ever going to make it in Hollywood?
That explains the haircut. That explains the haircut.
It does.
He's prepping, yeah.
But no, like I said, as we all are very aware, it may not have hit, but it became kind of an indie. Martin Scorsese said it was one of his 10 best movies of the year. He really liked Wes Anderson's characterization, and it launched every single one of their careers. So
Pretty much,
Well, it's a great example of a movie where, and this used to happen all the time, where you would get like an indie film, like especially an indie comedy that wouldn't become like, it would just totally fail the box office. But then on home video, it explodes, and like the right people endorse it. And I mean, this got picked up by Criterion to publish.
Yeah.
yes, it
And
did.
That was the
so
version I watched.
I am
yeah.
positive they've more than made their money back by this point. So,
I mean, that year Swingers came out too, and it's the same kind of story. I mean, Doug
Yeah.
Liman. I mean, I in fact, I looked at Swingers recently. I was showing it to my son, and I mean, you could see how crappily it was actually made,
Right.
and how on the but what they did was amazing.
yeah,
That came out in '96. It launched Doug Liman. It launched obviously Favreau and Vaughn, all that. But sorry, Will, I feel like I talked over what you were saying.
no, that I mean
you're
that's
some money and you don't even know it.
That's right.
I mean that goes along with what we're talking about is there used to be this ecosystem where a movie could flop, but everybody was counting on that secondary income to really carry the movie.
That doesn't happen anymore.
That.
Yeah.
No, it's killed so many sort of medium and small movies because it would be like I remember hearing like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon talking about that exact same thing. Is you used to be able to make a Good Will Hunting because if it may it may not do great in the theaters, but then you get maybe an Oscar run or maybe something like that, and then boom, you're getting your DVD sales and you make millions of dollars, and it's like it's just,
I think even Kevin Smith one time said the whole secret of the industry was your theatrical release was a commercial for your home video release.
That's wild, yeah.
And that's the way they all looked at it. Is like, hey, if you make money in theatrical, hey, great. But this is all to promo, hey, we're coming out on video in 6 months.
Yeah, and now you see like a movie you're following that you're looking forward to find out it's just being dumped on a streamer. You're like, oh man, I would love to see this in the theater.
I was so pissed off actually.
Or you don't even get the advertisement that it's going to be out. Right. You're like, oh, shit,
right.
I missed
they
that.
Just dump it, yeah.
I was going to watch Alien Romulus last night on my Hulu subscription, but as soon as I pressed play, I saw there were going to be 3 commercial breaks, and I immediately turned it off. I'm like, I am not watching an Alien movie with commercial breaks. No, like just no.
Well, that whole movie is a commercial for every other Alien movie. So.
I was about to say, per my wife, you probably would have been just as good to watch it where you were at.
I saw that in the theater.
She's an Alien fan. She loves Alien. So
I'm part Alien, and I was really looking forward to that. I love Fede Alvarez. I really love his take on Evil Dead and Don't Breathe. Like I was like so looking forward to this, and it was just the way I described it was Alien soup, like cool vibe, but it was just way too homage-y for my own liking. Like,
but we can all look forward to Wes Anderson's Alien. That's good. That's a movie.
I would watch it.
I'm waiting for that crossover.
Alien versus Dignan. Let's go.
There we go.
You've got a cutout of the spaceship and the cameras moving through it as we follow.
It's
done from the perspective of the alien with his internal monologue. I'm done.
See,
we've written the movie already. Submit it to the Independent Film Festival. A bit that I did, kind of like you were saying, is the end of the movie does have this heist where they try and rob it. What is it even like this? It was a meat packing. I can't even remember what it was.
I kind of checked out by then.
But they're all in their yellow boiler suits. They've got like, they're just so prepared.
It reminded me of the break-in scene from when they raid the island on like Steve Zissou. Like it kind of had that kind of feel.
It's very, very similar.
Sort of manic.
The part that kills me in that scene, every time I forget about it, because I've seen this movie a couple times, but I always forget when Applejack leaves, Kumar just looks at them and says, who was that guy? He was in the car with you the entire hanging out with him multiple times.
Well, Kumar in just general is such a random character because he goes in and he's supposed to be the safe cracker and he goes down, moves it a couple times, goes, no problem. And then you come back later and he's just sitting there and he goes, I don't know how to do this.
Totally lost.
Yeah. What do you want me to do? I'm like, I don't actually know how to do this. It's so
they're all
so
inept,
ridiculous.
but it's so done in such a charming way that you're like, it's funny. It's like naturally funny.
Well, and then you do finally see. So there's another character that's around with the brothers all the time is Bob, and we sort of see that like they've set up this heist. They're doing it to impress James Caan. And then the camera cuts to Bob's house, which has been completely cleaned out by James Caan. He's just robbed them. And you just realize they're just idiots. They've been manipulated the entire time. He's now stolen everything. And I do love the bit right at the end where Owen Wilson's in prison. And he's talking about, oh man, I bet he sold that grand piano for like 10 grand. You know, he's like, because he's planned on robbing Bob as well.
Yeah.
It's just...
Poor Bob.
Yeah, Bob definitely got like a kicking in this entire movie.
From his brother too, like his brother. That whole dynamic is funny. Really cool house though. I like that.
It was a very cool house because especially that one shot where we go, because they definitely use locations for the real. You know what I mean? Like we're in that, that motel for real. We're looking through the window and stuff like that. But the other part is like, we walked in through the front door. We went all the way through the house. We get out to the back where the pool was, all in that one long shot. That I'm like, okay. There's some really there's some filmmaking being done. Yes,
for sure.
And it's like, and with what they have, like they're doing it. I mean, another part that I remember just being silly and funny is the part where Owen Wilson turns up on that mini bike, and he spends a few seconds like doing like doing a wheelie, but you can see Owen Wilson is cracking up, like he's just realizing this is so stupid.
I think my brother pointed out last night, he was like, I think Wes Anderson has a motorbike in every single one of his movies. And I think that's true because I was trying to think, I'm like, it's in Grand Budapest. It's it's in Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'm like, I think he's right. I think there's one in every movie.
Isle of Dogs.
The dogs get on a motorbike. I'm almost positive there is one in
Asteroid City, maybe.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that one yet. I did see there was at some point saying there was like in the background there's a Jacques Cousteau poster, which is like a precursor to where we ended up with Steve Zissou. So you never know, man. The guy, he's an interesting guy, Wes Anderson.
People were not ready for in 1996, like for movies to look and sound like this. People were just not ready for it,
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a sort of ahead of his time. It's a bit experimental. It's a bit
Twister
random.
came out in 96. Like people wanted Twister.
Twister. There's no greater movie. It's a very famous movie that we love, Samuel, and then Will does not love.
He's warming up to it. After watching Twisters, he's like, okay, I get it.
Oh, next to Twisters. I mean, listen, give it the Academy Award. What would prove it though is if you put the first movie in 4DX. Then now I'm on board.
Wow!
I honestly didn't they re-release it in 4DX? Because Will did see Twisters in 4DX. We were actually quite impressed, quite jealous. He did get him sciatica.
It was fantastic. I had a great time. The movie was stupid, but man, I had a great time watching it. It's like, I want to see every bad movie like this. This is amazing.
Well, speaking of amazing movies, why don't we're going to move away. We'll move away from Bottle Shock. Let's head over to Hell or High Water, because this movie is amazing and I love it and it's fantastic from beginning to end.
I also saw this in 4DX. Let me tell you, nothing happened.
The chair just sits there the entire time.
Yeah, but I was in the theater.
It's just Jeff Bridges sitting in the theater yelling racist slurs at you.
I paid $40 for this, Eric.
Yeah, what a steal!
So yeah, Hell or High Water. The plot of the movie is great. Actually, it's honestly one of my favorite sort of lines in the movie when his attorney goes, "What's more Texas than that? Robbing a bank to pay him back with their own money." But essentially tells the story of two brothers. One who's a pretty sort of he's separated from his wife, but he seems to be a pretty intelligent guy. And then you've got the brother Ben Foster, who's been in prison for 10 of the 30-something years that he's been alive, as it turns out, for shooting their father, who was an asshole by the sounds of it. But essentially,
it was an accident. It's a hunting accident.
The theme of the movie is fuck banks.
Yeah,
basically,
sure.
Everyone just like hates the banks, and it's sort of talking about West Texas, this kind of poor area where essentially this big ranch, have been sort of given a predatory loan, a predatory sort of reverse mortgage to try and steal this land. We later find out, though, that they've also found oil. So essentially, these two brothers go out to rob the branches of the bank that tried to screw over their mother, but then use that money to pay the bank back to then get the land for Chris Pine's children.
Genius.
It is of all the neo-westerns, like recently, the most western. Yeah. It's two brothers riding into town to rob banks with the Rangers on their tail. It's true grit, but not. You know what I mean?
It's the death of the cowboy in that sense. Like instead of riding horses, they are stealing cars and then burying those cars.
I do appreciate though that Taylor Sheridan took the subtlety to not, discuss the death of the cowboy by starring as a cowboy and explicitly saying, "I'm not surprised my children want to do this." I'm like, okay, we get it.
Very Alfred Hitchcock, for sure.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if it was like Martin Scorsese on the horse, just doing a monologue,
So straight from the beginning, this movie gets going immediately.
I do have a question.
Yes.
How? Because the cold open of this is fantastic. They rob, 12 banks in a morning. And Ollie, you're famous for saying when you're in Texas, driving, if you have to go to the store, it takes 15 hours. I don't know. But how are all of these banks from this one branch so close to one another?
Well, I will say, okay, first of all, my very first note of the movie is not Texas could have fooled me because it looks like towns all over Texas. Now, I know that, like I said, Samuel, his missus, has said, well, that's not the right place, and there's no store there, and that's not right. Okay.
Of course.
But, if I was to drive 30 minutes south, if I was to drive 45 minutes west, I'm driving through towns that look like this. These teeny tiny little places, that have, rundown areas that basically have a bank or a school, So it does look very, very Texas. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, in West Texas especially, things are very, very sort of spaced out,
right?
But they do for example, to skip all the way to the end where they try to rob one bank and it's closed, and they go, "Oh, we've got to go to the other branch." It takes them 3 or 4 hours to get
county.
there.
Yeah.
So yes, once you do get driving in Texas, it can take a long time, but it looks like, to begin with, they robbed 2 towns that were near to each other.
Okay.
And it's like, much like my bank, there's only 3 locations for my bank that I've been banking with, and my wife's been banking with for 30 years. They do exist here in Texas, these kind of like, there's 5 branches, as opposed to using,
Have you
the
mapped
Wells
out
Fargo.
like, if I wanted to rob this bank, I have to go here?
Yeah.
I'm literally on Google Maps right now looking at that area at the banks, and there's a decent amount.
Did they ever establish the year this is set in? I guess it's modern.
2049.
No,
it's actually the future.
I would say, it was Blade Runner. No, it is established without being said, but it's because of the Texas license on the windscreen. You can see that they've got 2016.
Okay.
So their cars are up to date.
So it is like a current, because you could fool like this could have been set in the 90s or something.
But honestly, that's kind of the point of the movie in a way, is that this is a part of Texas, a part of the country that's honestly been left behind.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like when Chris Pine's talking about it, is like, that poverty is a disease that gets passed from father to son kind of thing. And that there was a place in New Mexico, so right up the top of, like, when you cross over from El Paso, there's some really cool caverns, Carlsbad Caverns. But then I was driving north, and a road that went east for 3 hours without a single turn. As in, we did a joke video of me asleep at the wheel but it's so poor. And then it's like random refinery. And then it's like, okay, that person like living in the middle of the no land, that's definitely a murderer on the run. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really, really strangely depressing part of the country in a way. And like, it's very well done in the movie, with like, you see it's always advertising for predatory loans and payday loans and things like that,
cash for gold.
Yeah. Sort of that kind of thing. But Samuel, like, what did you see this movie like as it came out, when it came out? Were you like us as well? I can't remember what we were talking about.
I'm trying to remember when I did see it. Funny enough, I was actually at the San Antonio Film Festival when it, I think, premiered there, or at least it showed there. I didn't get to see it at that point, but I know I saw it not too soon after. And I mean, it fits in terms of, like, take my wife's assessment out of it. It does fit the West Texas feel and look and state of things. I mean, like, my wife's dad is the youngest of 10. He is the only one who has a college education. He got the hell out. He moved to Dallas, took his wife as well. They got married. She was literally just graduated high school when they got married. I mean, it fits that whole, everything about it fits, even despite the fact that it's not, it's New Mexico.
Yeah. It's not even just sort of like the vibe of the way it looks, but it's also just the people cast in this movie. Yeah. Like, for example, when they go in the second bank they robbed that morning, and it's just the calm demeanor of older grizzly Texas dudes, and it's like, you got a gun? It's like, damn right I got a gun. It's just like, they're really not bothered if you put a gun in their face or anything like that. Everyone's packing left, right, and center. And these guys,
where they rob the bank later and everyone is just shooting at them. I was like, that's fucking
that was bordering on like a Naked Gun bit. It was
but not
exactly.
The tone is very different. But
I forget. Maybe it's later on. It might be that same scene where he runs into the bank and it's early in the morning and the bank is packed. Like, there's 60 people in there.
Yeah, it's that bit later when they rock up at lunch and it's like, oh no, and it's like, we'll get to that. There's more to talk about before we get there. But like, but yeah, it's kind of like we were saying earlier, is that you get those two sort of the two robberies right at the beginning. You've got them in the car, and they're just such believable brothers. With Chris Pine, with Ben Foster, and then Ben Foster is that kind of brother that you're like, he frustrates you.
Oh, I love him so much.
Yeah, he's a great character, but at the same time, it's like, and he's just got that sort of energy. Like, my favorite part is that when they're laundering the money the first time in Oklahoma.
In the casino?
In the casino, and he's like, eat my ass. You know what I mean? He's just like, he's just always shouting
He's
this.
total like little brother annoying mode. Like,
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole thing. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Even though he's the older brother. They're interesting.
Right.
They are the same age. They were born 2 months apart,
Oh,
but
wow.
they play believable brothers.
The idea of him having sex with a woman while his brother is in the bed on the other side is
It's very
wild to me.
Fargo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
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 But like,
Cool.
yeah. But like,
So
so,
one track mind.
Yeah.
but it's like, well, he's been in prison. But it's like, so yeah, we've got this really fun interplay with these two brothers. And, you know, as we're going through the movie, it's giving us the drip, drip, drip of like why and what's going on. But then we also have the interplay, the brotherly interplay of the two partners with Jeff Bridges and Gil Birmingham. Gil Birmingham, who turns up in a lot of Taylor Sheridan stuff, actually. He's in Yellowstone. He's in Wind River. And the interplay between Jeff Bridges going full Rooster Cockburn and Gil Birmingham, they're just, every time we cut back to them, it's like, oh, it's like The Odd Couple. It's like, it's great.
You want a detective show with just them.
Yeah. It's basically what, like, you mean,
so
a true
good.
detective for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
And it just what, like, even on the second rewatch, I'm just like, I know how it ends. And it's just like, I hate that they have this such good dynamic, both parties, like the two brothers and then the Rangers. I'm like, I know where this is going, and it just breaks my fucking heart. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those times where it's like you have protagonists, you have antagonists, but you like everyone and you understand where everyone's coming from, and you're just like, oh, I don't.
can't they just talk it out?
Yeah, I kind of don't want.
Not a Taylor Sheridan movie. You cannot talk
true.
something out.
Yeah, true.
Not gonna happen.
Damn.
I tell you, like, there was some really good like characterization, really good writing, and like one point that I really liked is, so before the third bank robbery happens, which is where we get the characterization of Ben Foster being a bit crazy and a bit impulsive because he goes and robs the bank because he just wants to. While Chris Pine's still in the diner, but it's
Starring
after that.
Amber Midthunder from Prey. Like, I clocked her in this movie. She's the young girl as the bank teller that when he robs.
That was her. I totally didn't put that together. Oh my god, she's so great. Pray, we have to figure out how to do that movie. But it's the bit with because all we've really seen from Jeff Bridges is him just being a bit of a grumpy, and he's making all the racial jokes with his partner. But he comes in and he's like, so tell me about the handsome boys that had lunch. He goes and she's like, I don't remember telling you anything about him being handsome. He says, well, you didn't come running outside to tell me as I'm in the car park, opposite a place that's just been robbed. And, it was just, and you just immediately see, wow, this guy's really good. He's a very good cop. He might be a grumpy old fellow or whatever, but you realize he's sharp.
He's been doing this for decades,
And like that waitress, she does it really well. Like when she's just like, you're not taking my tips kind of thing. And then, you've got the Texas good old boys going, good luck.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he sends his partner to go get the money.
Yeah, just stuff like that is really fantastic interplay like between them.
It really grounds this whole movie. Like, it makes it feel like, comparing it to like a Bottle Rocket, which is this heightened kind of cartoon almost. This feels very, very, very real.
But again, this is something that also I feel like is absent from a lot of what Sheridan writes nowadays, especially, is this kind of interplay. It's just not there. It's all, especially if you've seen, like, I don't watch all of his stuff, but I watched that Bass Reeves show. There is nothing like that in the entire show. And I'm like, that's one of those things I watch and I'm like, I almost can't believe this is the same guy. This is like a parody of that guy.
Yeah, I say the same thing about, and I've just finished season 2, but Tulsa King, it's almost like, it's almost become kind of like you're saying, a parody of itself. It's become kind of like very kind of lazy and almost like a soap opera. Mayor of Kingstown is one that I watched the first season of that. The first couple of seasons, very, very good. Feels like much more sort of grounded. But I think the thing is, he's obsessed with Yellowstone. He is sort of writing Yellowstone, but everything else that he's doing is kind of created by, and he's sort of handing it off. Because they just got that new one, Landman.
Not according to his interviews. According to his interviews, he writes 39 scripts a day, and he has a 19-pack abs, and he's just awesome at everything.
With all due respect to Yellowstone, I tapered off of that one quick because I can recognize the soap opera when I see it, and I was just like, I'm glad for him. I mean, I really am glad for his success. His success is Texas success, but I was like, just go back to Wind River, go back to Hell or High Water, go back to
That's
Sicario.
exactly right.
Yeah.
It's when he was doing his strongest stuff is when he could
Yeah.
focus on one thing at a time
Right.
and really
Totally.
craft a good story.
Unless he's
Yeah.
doing some kind of Marvel type crossover where you get the Mr. Tulsa King and Johnny Yellowstone and
And the Mayor of
Mass Reeves
Kingstown.
show, like we're putting together
Yeah.
a team. Hear me out, Taylor, if you're listening.
Thing is, I'm completely in agreement with you guys that, he came off, his first few screenplays are just, some of the greatest movies that we've seen. And it's like, it's like butter scraped over too much bread, to do a Lord of the Rings quote. But it's like, and credit to him for what he's doing. And the guy is honestly, he's making bank and he's a big success story. But I'm with you. I kind of want him to go back to focusing on just making some movies, like sort of like telling some interesting stories, because I think that's where he is at his best. This movie, quite interesting. It's like the character of Jeff Bridges is based off, I think it's his uncle, Sheriff McNamara. Who's the McLennan County Sheriff, which is where we currently are right now. So, like here, I remember when he rolled into town to fundraise for his sheriff uncle a couple of months ago. So it's like, and honestly, when I talk about like in Texas, so I like, if you don't know, I do videos as that Englishman in Texas. My favorite burger is from a little place called Cranfield's Gap. It's a tiny little town. I call it a 7-iron town because you could hit a golf ball across it with a 7-iron. But the Horny Toad Bar and Grill has the best burger. But of all places, that's where he's from. He's from this tiny, teeny town called Cranfield's Gap. And now he's Mr. Yellowstone.
Is it like when Jeff Bridges and Gil go to the diner across the street from the bank, and they're like,
Yes.
"What don't you want?" I love that.
Okay, let's talk about her, the best character in the entire movie. Let's talk about her, because I would watch a whole show with her.
She was fantastic.
She just comes rocking up and says, "What don't you want?" Excuse me, miss. It's like, "What don't you want?" And it's, we've been serving only one thing here. It's a T-bone steak. It's like you get into, you don't want the green beans, or you don't want the sweet corn, or whatever. And it's like, and then I love the bit where it's like, except
have trout.
Exactly. This asshole from New York, the one time I asked for trout.
In 1985, came in asking for trout.
And this is like, and then like Gil's like, "Oh, I'll take a steak," and she goes, medium rare. He goes, "No, can I?" That weren't no question.
Yeah, great.
You're getting it medium rare, and I was like, it was amazing. She's so good. Yeah. My favorite part of the movie by far.
But like to Will's point, like you get these, you don't, in all of his modern stuff, you don't get these moments of like levity where they're little comedic breaks, I mean, even Sicario had it a little bit, Wind River less so because it's such a bleak story, but this, you get the interplay. Like this movie is fun.
Yeah, it's so well rounded when, and I love Sicario.
Until it's not.
Yeah, right. Until it gets really serious at the end. I mean,
right.
And to me, that's always the mark of a good movie is where I'm along for the ride, and then at the end when it's getting serious, I mean, I'm crying at like the end. Like I actually like teared up in the theater, and I'm like, wow, this is a real movie right here.
Oh yeah, I mean, like one of those moments of levity, like they'll bring them in either with the brothers or with the Rangers. Like when the Rangers are in the motel, like the first night. And it's just Jeff Bridges just being a dick again. He goes like, "Oh, they put football," and goes, "Don't worry, they'll have some soccer on later."
Yeah.
Just throwing shit at him.
See, now I've moved on to Mexican jokes. Good callback. You said you were going to do it. And he's drinking a Shiner Bock, famously Texan. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Honestly, I put in my notes as well as that. But 2/3 of the way through the movie, I was like, now I really want a beer. Because everyone's drinking cold beers through the whole movie. And
when they're prepping for the next thing, he's like, "I'm going to have a beer." He's like, "I need you sober." He's like, "You can't get drunk off beer." Like,
who the hell gets drunk off beer?
Yeah.
Very cool.
And as someone who I can't stand beer, like the only beer I can drink is Shiner.
Sponsor of the podcast.
Oh, I wish.
You go.
I wish.
Come on.
They I'll say this much. I just got an email from them like 2 days ago. They want to send me some Christmas presents. So I get Christmas presents from Shiner Bock.
So nice.
It's great. It was awesome. They're great. Shiner Bock, I love you. So there's a bit I really like in the movie as well. So the original title for this movie was something like Comancheria, which is, it's kind of like a description for the area of West Texas and New Mexico that used to be Comanche land. And so it's that bit where where Ben Foster's character is playing poker against.
That was so good. My second favorite character. Yeah.
Yeah. And you get that really cool monologue about how it used to be, oh wait, no, yeah. It's him going, I'm the, like what Comanche means, you know what I mean? And it's like, it means enemy of everybody, like everyone's our enemy. And then Ben Foster, because that's the bit that carries through the whole thing, because he's like Lord of the Plains, all the way at the end.
And then
it was, but no, it was the other monologue that Gil has. Interestingly, he's Comanche. He's part Comanche, part Spanish. In real life, he was born in San Antonio. But it's a monologue about how they're sitting outside that diner opposite the bank, and he's like, this used to be our land until these guys' grandparents stole it from us, and now these people are stealing it from them. And it's just kind of like, it's getting into the cycle of it all. And that's what I mean. This movie, I think it might be just one of the best movies ever, because it's just so well written and so well, like, it's got a point and it's got a theme and it sticks to all of this the entire way through. And, it's such a pleasure to watch this movie.
Yeah. If only it wasn't written by a white man,
If it was written, by an actual Comanche.
Well, you can't just assume his.
That is true. That is true.
Genealogy.
His due is 23andMe. I did mine. I'm the most embarrassingly white person on planet Earth. I was even more white than I thought I was. It was like, good Lord. Okay, fine. But then and suddenly, so we've been going along on this ride, and it's kind of like being, we've got the Rangers over here, we've got the brothers over here, and everything's essentially going according to plan. And then the wheels come off, and it's brilliant. It's like they go to rob that last bank, it's closed, and so they go, okay, we got to go to post. And at that same time, we see Jeff Bridges with his, like, being good cop. He's like, he's made that they're going to go here, they're going to go to post. All signs are pointing to post, and suddenly all the momentum is pushing all of our characters together, and we're being thrown off. And like you said, they walk into the bank. It's far too many people. And this is where it just kicks off, and then it's the whole last 20 minutes of the movie, which is just fantastic.
I think in any other type of film too, like they are so well equipped and so well prepared, like Ben Foster and Chris Pine's characters, that you normally don't see that. Like the whole thing, like they have this whole meticulous. They're only hitting banks that don't have like recording devices in them, but when they're finally thrown off. But Ben Foster, you know he's a fucking powder keg because of just all of the interactions you see, and you keep waiting for him to be like the weak link in this to fuck it all up somehow. But that doesn't quite happen. I mean, I guess he does rob that one bank that he shouldn't have. But just to see how well prepared they are, again, contrasted to the brothers in Bottle Rocket, Luke and Wilson Bottle Rocket, it's so refreshing to see that. Like,
well, I mean, on your point, something I noticed on this watch is that the sort of the characterization of the fact that Chris Pine is the brains, and he's got no criminal history, right? And Ben Foster does. I'd almost say like Ben Foster acts in a way that almost like if he's not just like a hunter, which we get, like he does that. But he's comfortable around weapons and things like that. But I would have also put money that maybe he'd spent some time in the military, because when it all does kick off in the bank, you notice how calm under fire Ben Foster is when he kills two people. But Chris Pine, when he's shooting, he's backing away. He's shooting randomly. He hides behind. And I was like, that's an interesting bit of characterization. Is Chris Pine is not
came
used to
up with the idea to rob these banks. He's the brains.
But no one was supposed to get killed. That's why they were planned the way they were planned, is like no one's supposed to get killed. But then,
and it's graphic too, like it's a brutal scene.
But that's like, and it's great as well. Like and I hate to sort of talk about this, but it's like the rules of movies. You know what I mean? But it's the fact that like Chris Pine didn't kill anybody. I like at no point it's Ben Foster kills everybody and he dies, and Chris Pine gets off. Kind of scot free. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's like
I love that. I love that ending, by the way.
It's let's very quickly. We'll get to it very, very quickly. But it's like, because you get to that classic sort of standoff. Like it's they're doing all the classic Western things of like, you're being chased by the posse out of town, and then they split up.
When he stops the car to pull out that fucking machine gun to fire down the street, I was like, that's
great shot.
Badass.
Yeah, and it's like
they're like, okay, you win. All right, we'll go.
Yeah, if we would just, okay, fine. Just it's not our money. But it's like it's the really really clever bit, of like where they split up, and then you get that final moment between the brothers, like whatever they say to each other. It's like
fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then like Ben Foster goes off and has his sort of the last stand moment. He has his kind of like, which you'd get in those classic westerns of like, you're up on the mountain and here comes the guys, and it's like, but then you get the most shocking moment of the movie where
before you hit that, can I just say what I love about if he goes off, like, so he's been an asshole the whole time, but you see the brotherly love there.
That breaks my heart.
That's
every time I see it.
Yeah, that's good writing.
Yeah. Because he's not even looking at him, and he's like, I love you.
Yeah.
It's just this whole,
But he says, "What are you doing?" "I'm just doing what's necessary, brother." And it's like, you've got kids, and you finished the mission, you planned it. I'll take care of this.
You knew it was going to happen like the entire film, but even still rewatching it, I'm just like, oh man, I wish it wasn't going down like this.
The inevitability of it makes it so much worse. Yeah,
right. But then they soften the blow. Part of us is like, well, he kind of has to die because he kills Gil. He kills one of our favorite characters in the movie, and it's done so brilliantly. The guys are bantering, they're just under fire, no one's really bothered by it, and then bang, he's shot in the head.
Oh, it's so like you're not prepared for how it happens. Like
not at all.
It's just it happens so quickly, and you're just like, whoa, that normally doesn't happen in a film. He's just lights out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then it unlocks the other side of sort of like Jeff Bridges. Which is like, it's like, okay, now we're gonna kill this guy, and it's like
just got motherfucking real.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
and it took him 6 hours to get around and hike up that.
Honestly, bloody hell. I mean, it would have. But he's also like, he plays the out of breath. Like he plays he's like, I mean, is Jeff Bridges dying? Is Jeff Bridges dying? But he's like, he's
I think
his characterization
it takes him like 30 minutes to get around there, and then to have to hike up behind him to aim down was really, really nuts.
But it's like, it's a great death with Ben Foster as well. But then it's like, but then we also add that little bit more tension where it's that great, like, we get that great reveal as Chris Pine drives over that small hill, and we get that roadblock that's there, and we know he's been bleeding and stuff like that, and the guy's always got his hand on his gun, and you're just like, I was like, they're just finding more ways to keep us on the edge of our seat.
He's
but
so
subtly.
great. We always say this, how great he is at writing tension in his films. Like it's undeniable. And in this one, you really have I forgot about that scene because they take his ID and they're running it, and Chris Pine is hit and he's bleeding. It's great.
Yeah.
And then you get him sitting in Oklahoma, seeing his brother's dead
At the
TV.
casino.
Yeah. As he's having a drink. I mean, I could watch this movie again right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, it's another one. I'm like, I hate rewatching this because of like, once you get to that third act, I'm like, you get so attached to these characters, and to have to see them go through that, it's so frustrating in that way.
Yeah. It does bring back the satisfaction though when he's actually at the bank paying for it. I love that he's there. Like, I want to see you process, like, put it through, just that awkward scene where the guy's standing there,
and he's like, it's going to take a while to get up the documents, put it through this fax machine. It just cuts to him, he goes, there you go.
I got all day. But it's like, he's got a real mean look on his face, and it's like whoever they got as that bank manager, he's like, well, look at that, like 42,000, how lucky, like, good
just
for you.
Type all the individual letters in. Right. Dude, fuck off.
But it's like, but it's really clever. Like, that's again, some of the best writing of it is that when he does pay off the bank to get the land, he then puts the trust under the same bank, so that when the cops come asking, they are just, no, we got 50 grand a month coming from these people. We don't want to, we don't care, whatever. So it's just brilliant that when you're like, okay, we jump a little bit into the future. Jeff Bridges is retired. He comes by, and he's like, and that's it's like a week later, it seems. Like, he's retired. Like, he shows up, and they're like, I thought you retired. And it's like, that's great. You get this like little epilogue. But it's like, but they explain any of those little loopholes of like, they go, well, Chris Pine's got no history. He's got nothing. It's got nothing to do with it. He's got land. Why would he rob 40,000? And it's talking about how like Ben Foster's former cellmate was a bank robber. He's somewhere out of state. We haven't been able to find him. Chris Pine is not a suspect. And it's like, and it's the thing is Jeff Bridges knows, and you get that final moment where he goes down to the ranch. There's a nice touch that if you notice that they're growing crops where they buried the cars.
Yeah.
If you like, so it's to really hide where
Which
the cars have been.
seems implausible. Like,
People grow crops over like just around the corner.
Oh,
people
yeah.
do that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
Like
don't know
little-
this, but Chevys are 40% mulch.
I was going to say,
But yeah, you get the standoff.
I do want to say, I love that bit where he's like, now we got to bury the car. And I thought that was just like a euphemism, but no, they're actually using like to bury this fucking car. I was like, okay.
I did miss the old Texas license plates, the ones that had the space shuttle on them. But yeah, you get the final face off in a way, and it's like it's the most polite. Well, I'll kill you one day. From both of them, you know.
I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, it's like if you ever want to get together and finish this conversation,
And he
just let me
does.
know.
I think you think that will happen eventually. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad
Yeah.
it wasn't like a No Country for Old Men ending where it's just Tommy Lee Jones sitting at the table,
Bloodbath. Yeah.
credits.
Yeah.
We get that they both know that they both know.
Yeah.
It's like, but then
I like
Chris
that-
Pine's like, I didn't get it. This is my son's place. I gave it to them. This
I'm
this
just here
ain't
to
mine.
work. Yeah.
I'm just But if
I
you
do-
want to finish that conversation,
I do like that Jeff Bridges' dog is a bloodhound. It's kind of like a little like, oh, his dog's also a detective. Cool.
Yeah.
That's his
But
new partner.
Yeah.
but the movie finishes with just another beautiful shot. The car driving away, it goes down into the grass. It just stays there as the credits go, and you're just sitting there with the there's some of those movies. Yeah, you sit there and you need the credits to calm down, or you need the credits to think about. Oh man,
You're stewing like, oh, yeah.
yeah,
Seriously,
and
yeah.
this is one of those movies.
And then you watch Bottle Rocket and you're like,
Should have flipped those.
I
should have.
yeah, I should have as well. But honestly, it's just Bottle Rocket is not for everybody. Whereas I would say Hell or High Water is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think you froze a little bit. But we always go on like gut feeling of like which has the more Texas feel to it. And I just watching this the whole way through, I'm like, oh, I know it's shot in New Mexico, but this to me has that. Oh, this is what I feel like Texas.
It's dripping with Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a pitch to you guys for next year, but we can for your next time you hit Texas again. And I've told this to Ali, and in fairness, I think he's frozen. But
Yeah.
I won't
just
jump
got very
in on that
serious
until
look on his face.
the time that y'all want to talk about the next one. But I got a pitch of a film for you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh okay. Well okay. Well, Ali, I mentioned this to you. Any of you guys ever heard of a movie called Fandango?
Oh yeah, my wife has been trying to get this movie on the show since we started.
Really?
Yes.
Good for her. You got a great woman there. Yeah, so it stars Kevin Costner. It's one of his first films.
It's Kevin Reynolds, right?
Kevin Reynolds is the director. Yep.
Yeah.
It's set originally set as these college students coming out of UT, but the crazy thing is, it's actually Kevin Reynolds went to Baylor, and so a lot of it has to do with like his time in Baylor. And released in '86, I think. It was basically set going into the Vietnam War or while they're in the Vietnam War. Highly recommend it. It's all in Texas. They go from Austin down to the border on a road trip, and it is just stellar. It's got it's comedy. It's hilarious. It's funny, and then it's got just these great moments of where it just dives deeper because of it's set the backdrop of these guys are trying to get out of going to the Vietnam War.
My missus was so pissed when I didn't do it for the road trip episode. She's like, no. And she's like, I would have. So she has, honestly, it's been her number one movie she's been trying to get on the show now for a year and a bit. So
Ollie, have you even seen it?
I haven't. I've been waiting. I have been waiting.
Gosh. Okay. This is a thing. We're going to get this done. We're going to get you guys.
That's our challenge episode right there.
That's a good one. But yeah, no, Fandango is one I've definitely been hearing a lot about, from both sides now. I've been getting
and it ends with them setting up the movie ticket website, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. Totally.
got it.
So I mean, but yeah, there you go. It's time to really sort of get into, because these are two very, very Texas movies.
And they're going up against, Friday Night Lights. Let's not forget.
So this is actually this is a pretty tough three-way fight, because the only thing that really counted against Hell or High Water is it's shot in New Mexico. But someone that lives in Texas, someone that is Texan, it's got Texas all through it. It's more the mindset of the brothers. It's the plot. It's the idea of robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. It's like it's got this kind of Texas mindset to it. But then Bottle Rocket, it's shot by Texans in Texas from guys from University of Texas. It's in Hillsboro.
It's like Will brought up a great point last episode is Hell or High Water feels like a Hollywood movie, whereas Bottle Rocket very much feels like a Texas movie,
Oh, ooh.
We did
now we did do that. That was last week when we were talking about the Wraith.
The Wraith, yeah.
And Will made a really excellent point. But
I think it goes,
I get that, but I would say less so, because I would say that honestly, even though Bottle Rocket is a bunch of Texans shooting in Texas, I feel like that movie could have been anywhere.
Oh, for sure.
The Texas of it honestly doesn't matter. It could have been shot in Jersey.
Yeah. The only thing that really, to me, visually gives away that it's Texas is it is flat. Like there is just nothing around when they're driving around. But that's the only, because I noticed that halfway through. I'm like, I've not seen a mountain.
Yeah.
Like what? Like so,
not a mountain, not an oil rig, not a cowboy.
So that was the only thing visually to me that was like, oh, that's Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like even the accents, they don't sound very Texan. You know what I mean? It's like it's whereas when we get to Hell or High Water, it's
so much too much Texas.
Yeah, while being New Mexico. So I'm interested. Like Samuel, as our official Texan, like with the two that we were talking about, just for this episode, Bottle Rocket versus Hell or High Water. Where do you land on this one with the Texas of it all?
I have to go with Hell or High Water as well, because I mean, and especially the point that Bottle Rocket could have been set anywhere.
Yeah,
and it probably was the point. They wanted it to be set anywhere. They didn't want it to be a Texas film. I'm guessing Wes. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Wes didn't want it to be a Texas film per se. Not saying he ever said that, but I mean, it just wasn't in the.
Well, there's nothing in the movie
that's indicated as the Texas.
Yeah, at all. I mean, honestly, with the greenery that they shot it in as well, I'd be amazed that people even knew it was set in Texas.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Until the very end that you get the Dallas Fort Worth cops turn up. That's the only sort of real indicator. Right. But because I honestly think for me, because Hell or High Water was my number one pick for Texas before we even did the podcast, but I didn't do it because it was shot in New Mexico. So I said this year it's coming in now.
But now you can't pick it for our New Mexico episode.
No, and that's okay. But Friday Night Lights is a set in West Texas, small town movie that's about
in West Texas.
Yeah, and it's football, and it feels Texas all the way through. Now, Hell or High Water, it's so Texas. It's got a Texas vibe. It's got that neo-Western vibe. It's got that Texan sort of ethos to it. Shot in New Mexico.
Now, if they're robbing these banks to buy new jerseys for the local high school football team,
that might be too much legally too much Texas. That's 110% Texas.
Yeah, and they stop at a Buc-ee's as well. But it's like, this. Oh, sorry, didn't whack my mic. But this is. I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but I think I'm still leaning that Friday Night Lights is more Texas than Hell or High Water. Hell or High Water is a great Texas-based Western. It does talk about sort of some aspects of Texas life, but everyone in Texas can relate to Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
You can, if you're all the way east, all the way north, all the way south, you can relate to this story of a football team going to state. Whereas
Hell or High Water,
Go, Sam.
So I actually was telling you guys a story earlier, and I'll just tell it again here, because it works on all sorts. Like my wife and I were going to go watch a film, and we had a very young baby at the time, and we didn't want to ruin anything for people in the theater. So we actually went on a Friday night when our hometown high school team was going to be playing local, and the theater was empty. Like it was
Ah.
empty, and it normally isn't. And that was so we use it to our advantage. Knowing everyone's going to be at the football game, we went to go watch the film, and with a 6-day-old child.
You make me think like that would be a great plot line for like a heist film that they only rob banks during Friday nights because everyone's busy at the games.
That's basically you take parts of all three movies and you've just made a new movie, Brian.
Who's robbing all of these bookstores every Friday?
Dude, it's called Friday Night Heists. It's brilliant. There we go. We've got it.
There we go. There's your new student film right there. I love that.
Okay, done and done. Well, that's the thing is that it's not always about what's the best movie, because I think the best movie is definitely Hell or High Water. But the thing is, Friday Night Lights is also a bloody excellent movie.
I think you said it earlier. Like Hell or High Water is such like a very niche story that like banks are bad. Whereas Friday Night Lights is telling a more grandiose, like all-encompassing. It's about this whole town.
Well, that was kind of the criteria we landed on last time, is how universal like Friday Night Lights was for Texas, and it was more indicative of what everyday people experience in Texas, as opposed to like Giant, or something like that, where it's like that's a very specific time.
If Giant only had more football.
Yeah, Giant was so good there. I was actually, Will, thank you. I was
now,
just
Little Giants. The prequel to Giant, Little Giants.
That's got everything in it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You cannot talk about the New York Giants in a Texas podcast. I'm a flag on the play right
That's
now.
a rule right there. So we I'm sensing that we're all vibing on this one, that Friday Night Lights is still
overall,
it's still
I think it's
the most Texas of them all. All right.
I think so.
I'm good with that.
Okay, I'm putting a
until we do Fandango.
Yes,
until you do Fandango.
Well, we'll do that. We'll put that on the list. Absolutely, that Fandango will be on next time we circle back around. But here at the United States of Movie Podcast, still champion of Texas is Friday Night Lights, directed by Peter Berg. Do watch it. I highly recommend it. But also, Hell or High Water is a movie, if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely brilliant. And if you're in the mood to watch something a bit weird, Bottle Rocket, it might be for you, it might not be for you. But before we finish off there, it's like, were there any other sort of Texas movies apart from Fandango that we sort of thought about bringing to the table? I mean, it's No Country for Old Men is one that people bring up all the time.
What is the reason we didn't pick that last time? Was it because it's not technically set there also? Like, I forget.
It's also shot in New Mexico.
Right. Right, yeah.
But it's like,
Will had a good suggestion though.
Texas?
What
I don't even remember.
Paris, Texas.
Paris. Oh, that's right. Paris, Texas. Yeah. That's also that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, that's a good one.
We mentioned Dallas Buyers Club. We were going to really throw a wrench in the gears and pick Varsity Blues.
Yeah, right. Just go do it again. We did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when we did our Halloween special.
Which is still the one people say to me the most when I ask people who are from Texas. I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, oh, Texas Chainsaw. And I'm like, that is not really comforting to hear.
We mentioned on our Arizona episode, like Blood Simple,
Yeah, because I've never seen that. Was Tender Mercy.
Really good. For a first film from filmmakers, it's the Coen brothers knocked it out of the park from the start.
I mean, there's also Mike Judge's Office Space.
Yeah.
So
it's
good.
crazy to think that Bottle Rocket launched Luke Wilson's career right into Idiocracy. It's amazing.
What about
go for it.
The Three Boroughs of Melquiades Estrada? Is that a Texas film? I know because he's trying to get to Mexico, but I mean, I'm trying to remember if it went through Texas or.
I'm not sure about that one.
Texas Killing Fields.
That's a new one on me. But like, this is the thing. It's like, I mean, Smokey and the Bandit, if you could, like, because he does go into Texas, but he's from Georgia. You know what I mean? I'm just looking. There are hundreds of movies. I mean, we could do a podcast just about bloody Texas, man.
All the Texas Chainsaw Massacres. There's so many of them.
I mean, there's that more recent Tom Hanks movie, News of the World, as well. That's like it was on Apple or something like that. That's a really, really good one.
Dumped straight on a streamer.
But yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot. That's one thing I think that we can agree is, like, Texas have got a lot of movies that we can get into. Fandango being one of them. But also next week we are going. Where are we going next week, guys? We're going to Nevada. Nevada. I've got to say it properly. Don't say Nevada. Where we have our ultimate champion at the time is Casino. But we have picked two movies to attempt. Honestly, I didn't even get involved on the text thread because I'm really happy where it ended up. But Will, tell us the movie you selected. I'm very happy with
Another
this.
Criterion classic.
Yes, I like to take my choices very seriously, and I only like to pick serious cinema. So I picked Showgirls.
The thing is, it's a very, very Nevada movie, so
You can't deny it.
It's Paul Verhoeven, man.
But is it a Nevada movie or is it a Vegas movie?
And here's the question that we're going to be getting into.
You know.
Because
a tough one.
That is the conversation we had last time, especially because we did have a bunch of Vegas centric. Because I had like Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
So Ryan, what was the one you threw out?
I picked Tremors.
I'm so excited.
Which is like, I mean, I wanted to pick like just to counteract the fact that we picked very like casino focused films for for our first run, but like to do something that's very out there, very like a movie that traumatized me as a kid.
Tremors is great as well.
That's just because you're scared of Reba McEntire. So that's,
where she's got that many guns, everyone's scared of Reba McEntire.
God.
Picked the wrong damn rec room.
And I would say shout out to Michael Gross for not saying no to a single Tremors movie.
I know
that man will not not turn down a paycheck.
And honestly,
for it.
Honestly, I mean, yeah, they're schlocky and they get schlockier as they go, but they're still so enjoyable.
Yeah,
there was I remember a trailer coming out a couple of years ago, I think for the Sci-Fi Channel, where they were going to do they did like a spec shot for a Tremors show, and Kevin Bacon was on board. Yeah. And it just nothing ever. People are like, no, we don't want graboids. It's or they called it a cash graboid. I don't know.
I am all for it. I mean, come on.
I would have done that. But yes, so next week, if you want to watch along with us, we'll be talking about those movies. So you can find Tremors, you can find Showgirls. It's going to be such a funny week.
Both on Pluto and Tubi, I think.
Probably, no doubt.
Tremors is on Paramount Plus.
Oh, nice.
Showgirls, I think you just have to go to a peep show down the street. Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun one for sure. This was a great one. I really enjoyed this week. Some really interesting movies as well. Samuel, just where can people find out information about the Waco Independent Film Festival, anything like that? Feel free to plug it.
Totally, yeah. WacoIndie.com and Waco Indie on all of the socials.
So when is the film festival happening?
Right. We are the third weekend in July. I know Texas is in July, but there's a method to that madness. The first is that during the day, you're in the theater and it's cool. And at night, you're at the parties and you don't have to wear a jacket.
But you do have to wear a cowboy hat.
Yeah. You can wear cowboy hats are optional. Yeah.
But
we will have a buck and bronc as well.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there with bells on. But thank you very much for joining us for this episode. It's always great to have guests on. As well, if you want to follow me and what I do, you can find me as That Englishman in Texas or Ollie Pettiger on Facebook, where very often I'm doing videos about the life in Texas. But every Monday I like to talk about movies, usually the movies that we're doing in the podcast. You can find Will on his TikTok as entitled Millennial. He's got a massive Blu-ray collection. It's a great channel to follow if you want to find out about movies you maybe never heard of or really should watch. And of course, when it comes to Ryan does incredible redesigns of movie posters and things like that. They're brilliant. You can find them Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital, on his Threadless, on his Etsy, and things like that. Don't forget, you can also find us on our Facebook page, the United States of Movie Podcast. Come join us on Reddit. Drop us in the comments on YouTube. Tell us why Will should watch more Twister, and recommend Damon Wayans movies for him to watch as well.
Oh God, no. Blocked. Preemptively blocked.
Outside of that, as always, if you are watching us on YouTube and you haven't, please do subscribe. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, do us a favor and rate us or share it with your friends that like movies as well. We love doing this. We love to get into the conversation. And we've got so many more states to go. So we're always keen to hear your ideas for what movies you think we should watch. But from me, Ollie, from Ryan, from Will, and from Samuel, thanks for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast.